Why work should feed your soul, not drain it. Healing parables. There once lived a man named Matthew. Matthew always believed that work was a heavy burden one had to carry to survive. From early morning until late at night, he toiled, pouring all his energy into his tasks until he felt there was nothing left for himself. His days were consumed by exhausting labor, and his nights were spent worrying about the inevitable repetition of it all the next day. He often thought, work is just a way to give away my last ounce of strength. How else can I survive? Matthew was a jack of all trades. He could fix roofs, build fences, and craft the most beautiful wooden toys that captivated both children and adults. However, he rarely had time for what he truly loved: making toys, because he was always called upon to fix someone else's roof, build a fence, or do other work that brought him no joy. One day, after a particularly grueling day, Matthew went to the park to calm his weary mind. Lost in thought, he didn't notice when the park ended, and he wandered into the forest. Absent-mindedly, he trudged along, oblivious to the world around him. Eventually, he stumbled upon a peculiar stone sticking out of the ground in the middle of the forest path. Startled, he paused to look at it, and suddenly, the stone began to glow with a soft golden light. As Matthew leaned closer, curious about its glow, the stone began to speak. "Hello, Matthew," the stone said. "I am the stone of inner rest. Why do you wear yourself out with so much work?" Matthew froze in surprise, but after a moment, he replied, "What do you mean, why?" "To survive. I work because I have to. If I don't work, I won't be able to live." The stone seemed to ponder his words for a moment before responding. "But is living only about working? How many times have you paused during your work to truly feel joy in what you do?" Matthew frowned. "Joy? I can't even remember the last time I felt joy. Work is a duty. How can there be joy in that?" The stone glowed brighter, as if displeased by his response. "Your soul cries out from exhaustion. Let me show you something. But first, close your eyes." Matthew obeyed, and an image from his childhood appeared before him. He saw himself as a little boy sitting on the porch of his house, carving a wooden horse. The boy's face was radiant with joy and inspiration. Back then, work felt like play, and the world was an endless field of possibilities. The stone spoke again. "You were happy because you worked from the heart. It was your way of creating your gift to the world. Why did you forget that?" Matthew sighed, his eyes filling with tears. "I don't know. Everything changed as I got older. Now work is a responsibility, not a joy. I have to provide for my family. I have to work hard." The stone glowed softly and replied, "Work doesn't have to be a punishment. It is an opportunity to use your talents to make the world better while preserving yourself. Try to remember what brings you joy." Matthew thought for a moment. He realized that the wooden toys he had once made with such love were his true passion. But then doubt crept in. Who would buy his toys? What if no one appreciated his work? Sensing his thoughts, the stone said, "Fear is just a shadow lurking in the corners of your soul. Try, and you will see that the light of creativity can chase it away." Enchanted, Matthew made his way back through the forest and the park to his home. He felt drained by the unusual experience and went to bed early. The next morning, he woke up early on his day off. After breakfast, he found his old tools and a piece of wood and began carving toys. At first, it was difficult. His hands trembled from fatigue, and his mind swirled with thoughts of unfinished tasks. He even scolded himself for not planning his upcoming work week. But gradually, he felt joy returning. Each new toy turned out better than the last, and his weariness seemed to fade away. Matthew started setting aside time after work to carve toys. He decorated his windowsills at home with them, and they brought a warm charm to his office. Sometimes, during lunch breaks, he would carve to relax after a tough morning. People in the office and around town began to notice his creations. They came to Matthew to buy toys for their children or as gifts. A colleague posted a picture of Matthew's toys on Instagram, and a neighbor shared them on Facebook. A friend invited Matthew to a Sunday market, and his wife listed the toys on an online marketplace. Soon, word of Matthew's beautiful carvings spread to other towns, states, and even countries. Matthew transitioned to a job where he only worked half days, devoting the rest of his time to carving and shipping toys. He no longer felt drained. His work now brought joy not only to others but also to himself. He often thought of the stone of inner rest and its words. Work is an opportunity to use your talents while preserving yourself. Now Matthew knew this to be true. Work was no longer a heavy burden for him. It had become an expression of his soul. Matthew still worked hard, but now his work brought deep satisfaction and joy. On days when challenges arose, he smiled, knowing he had strength. Not because he gave it all away, but because his work nourished him from within. And so, Matthew, guided by the wisdom of the stone, forever changed his attitude toward work and life. The end.